Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Tolhurst and welcome to the Motormainia podcast for tonight, the 14th of October, live on YouTube. I haven't filmed one of these for a while. We're live now tonight on YouTube. Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Tolhurst today. Welcome to the Motormainia podcast, and we've got a lot of news to round up. Predominantly tonight, this will be a motorsports focus, so we're going to be reacting to some of the biggest motorsport events around the world. We're going to be building up to the F1 United States Grand Prix, or the US Grand Prix, taking place in Austin this weekend, obviously called the United States Grand Prix as well. And we're also going to be reviewing quickly the Singapore Grand Prix as well. And we're also going to be talking about the Australian V8 Supercars race at Bathurst, and also the NASCAR Cup Series out in America at Las Vegas. Now, can I just confirm, we're going to start with the Formula One whilst we're here. There are now just a matter of time before the end of the 2025 season. We're now into the closing leg. We have literally got 5 to 6 races to go. I think we've got about 5 races left now. Max Verstappen has closed up a huge lead on both of the McLaren drivers, thanks to 2 wins out in Monza and Baku, as Red Bull's floor upgrades have really brought them into play. However, though, McLaren came off the last couple of races with team orders, chaos ensuing them, and also as well a bizarre collision on the first lap in Singapore, where Lando Norris hit both Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri certainly not very happy. And behind the scenes with Mark Webber, there has been a lot of tension in the McLaren garage, particularly on the future of both of their drivers, particularly Oscar Piastri especially. Mario Andretti, the a former F1 world champion years ago, has actually criticised McLaren for favouring Lando Norris. And I have to say, guys, I do agree with Mario Andretti, actually. I do feel like, whilst I like Lando and Oscar, I like Lando for his quadrant content particularly. I really enjoy watching quadrant. And obviously Oscar as well. I think Oscar's been more consistent this season. I think both drivers, I'll be happy if Lando wins it. I'll be happy if Oscar wins it. I'm not saying I'm an Oscar Piastri fan. I'm saying that the team need to treat their drivers fairly, let them race. I'm just saying that Oscar Piastri would deserve the championship more because he's being more consistent this season. But like I said, I'll be happy if Lando Norris wins, and I think he's definitely done some great drives this year, especially what we saw in Monaco as well. Anyway, obviously Formula One's back. In terms of the last round, it was pretty clear to me. It wasn't the most eventful race in Singapore, although Nico Hülkenberg spun off as well. In that one, it was George Russell, though, won the race. A commanding performance from him in the Mercedes. Redemption from last year where he crashed out on the final lap. Red Bull's Max Verstappen took second place in a very impressive showing on one of his weakest tracks as well, did Max. Super Max certainly getting some huge points. Again, outscoring both McLarens. Oscar Piastri, again, just McLaren's pit stops. What were they going? What was happening to them? Andrea Kimi Antonelli was 5th. An impressive result from him, actually, despite him being in his rookie season. Definitely improved in the last few races. He's actually been a lot more consistent, I think. Charles Leclerc, 6th. Fernando Alonso was 7th. I tell you what, Alonso done well in that race. Despite having a few tensions boiling over on the team radio, particularly with Lewis Hamilton. So Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. Hamilton got a penalty, 5-second time penalty for apparently running off the track several times. Both Ferraris suffered brake issues throughout the whole of that race. I believe that's been a major problem this season they've had. But in Singapore, they overheated their rear brakes. Leclerc was having to lift and coast most of the race. And I tell you what, he's lucky to finish even 6th. Ferrari having such a disappointing year. They're 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. They're about 30 points adrift of Mercedes now. Ferrari's season's just been terrible. Apart from a pole position in Hungary, they've just not been on the... Only a few podiums for Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton's still podiumless. Ollie Behrman, impressive 9th for Haas. Definitely a great result for him. And Carlos Sainz towards the back of the grid, 18th, position to finish 10th. And I have to say, the media coverage from F1, the TV coverage was absolutely poor because half of Science overtakes weren't shown on the camera. They were showing them with girlfriends. What was the point? As I said in the Tonight Show podcast, one of my planks of the week was actually the TV direction of F1. I thought it was terrible. There were so many moves that didn't get shown. Many of Science's moves didn't get shown. We didn't see the McLaren. They sort of cut away the final lap as well. It was just crazy. What was going on with them? F1 defended their TV direction during a recent outburst. I think again Mario Andretti was one of the people that criticised. It might have been Lawrence Barretto. There was a couple of people that criticised it. But come on, this is terrible. For sure. Isaac Hadjar finished 11th. He had a lot of issues during that race. Actually, from what I understand, the RB had a very low top speed. Top speed was a big problem for him. Lance Stroll, obviously Yuki Tsunoda was 12th. Having a really another bad qualifying from him. Then we had Stroll, Albon, Lawson, Colapinto finishing ahead of Gasly. Colapinto's definitely improving. At one point, he actually looked like he was going to be heading towards the top 10 and just obviously made that late pit stop. He was running good actually in some of the race. Bortoleto, Sauber having a very torrid weekend. Both cars not even above 17th place. Hulkenberg was last, spun off at one point. Then we had Ocon, who had a great Friday, just bad qualifying, and Gasly couldn't really do much in that car. Next race is the United States Grand Prix at Austin, Texas, Circuit of the Americas on the 19th of October. It comes as McLaren are in all sorts of problems at the moment, with Alex Palou now taking the team to court over an alleged 2023. It was to do with the team apparently not hiring him for 2023, claiming that McLaren didn't have a contract for Oscar Piastri. Very interesting, because remember that time when Piastri signed for Alpine? Alpine confirmed it, then Piastri denied he was going to the team. So, very bizarre what's happening. McLaren have definitely, as a McLaren fan, I'm very disappointed what's happened the last 3 or 4 races. The team players, I think a lot of this season as well, the team management's been poor, particularly that they're fighting for a World Drivers' Championship. I think the Papaya rules thing is a joke. It's one of the worst, most fantasy rules you could ever think of. How would you get 2 drivers fighting for a World Championship and you don't let a team order? Is this going to be decided in Abu Dhabi in a team order? I don't want it to. This is turning into a Senna and Prost 1989 rivalry very soon. If there are more collisions, it's going to be like that. Oscar's going to have to get his elbows out in the next race, definitely. And I think Piastri's definitely going to come back fighting in Austin. I have a feeling that and you can see the radio messages from Piastri as well. He got a bit uptight on the radio and definitely showing frustration, despite leading World Championship 22 points. So, yeah, very interesting. Obviously, that's the F1. Moving on now to the Repco Supercars Championship. Now, I don't usually cover this, but I'm going to cover this because this is an iconic race. The Bathurst 1000, the 1000 miles of Bathurst, a very iconic event in the Australian V8 Supercar series. One of the most iconic motorsport events anywhere in the world outside of Le Mans 24 hours. Kind of calling this the 6 hours of Bathurst, I suppose. 1,000 miles, 161 laps in total. The winner of that race was Matthew Payne and Gareth Tandler in the number 17 Pembrite racing car, who held on for the last lap, got past David Reynolds, James Golding and David Russell. James Golding did cross the line in first, however, he got a penalty. 5-second time penalty, I think, for an earlier incident. And they made up 10 positions in that race. 17 made for Matthew Payne and Grant. So then we had David Reynolds and Lee Holdsworth at one point that were quite far behind. They finished in second. Cooper Murray and Job Stewart were fourth. Then we got Cameron Hill and Cameron McLeod in the number 04 Superclass racing car. Then we had Brock Fernie, Jamie Winchart. Jamie Winchhart's a very experienced seasoned veteran in V8 Supercars. Sixth. Then we had Andre Harmondager and Declan Fraser in seventh. Kyan and Dale Wood. Then Aaron Cameron, Zach Best, number 03 Cool Drive Auto Parts racing car. And then Craig Lowndes and Zach Bates were 10th. So honestly, the ending was crazy, the last remaining laps. I heard some people saying it was better than an F1 race. The Bathurst 1000. Certainly full of very interesting action. For sure. In fact, I've got a little clip that I'm going to play for you now of exactly the final remaining laps, including some of the highlights of that event. This is some of the highlights of the Bathurst 1000. Have a listen to this very shortly once the advert finishes. So this one, guys, is some of the highlights from the Bathurst 1000. Here we go.
It has been a huge day here at Mount Panorama. Incredible to think that that was the conditions that we started the race. It was just blue sky, a bit of a breeze, but the forecast was always for what was coming later in the race. One of the man of the match performances, Cooper Murray, who was on it from the very beginning in his Chico Camaro. And it was almost over right there for Garth Tander and for Matt Payne. I reckon Garth might have to go down and buy Craig Lowndes a beer for that one. The big moment started to turn. Lap 55 after a quiet start. Bang! Tony D'Alberto, car 17, out of action. First BP pole safety car of the day. Disappointment for Will Davison, and unfortunately that would be their day done. And then on the restart, Chaz Mostert's engine expires. And one of the great images of the great race for this year, over to the fans to enjoy a cold one. The rain, it arrived, and then it never really dissipated. The action at the front was incredible. Waters going toe-to-toe with Kostecki. They came in for wets. Lap number 71, and one of the big movers in the race out of action. So many people had picked Waters and Winterbottom to go all the way today. It was really over in that moment. We never saw them come back. Tough day for Brodie Kostecki into the back of Kyle, and that was one of many moments for Brodie. It just wasn't to be his day here at Mount Panorama. Also, not to be the day for Red Bull Ampol Racing. This was Brock Feeney into the fence. Not a good image to see that car stuck. That would bring out a safety car. Amazingly, this didn't bring out a safety car. That was Jackson Evans, unfortunately, the SCT entry out of action. Will Brown, hefty contact with the fence, taking both of the Red Bulls out of contention. But Feeney would fall back to 6th. Brown did finish in 17th today. Heavy rain towards the end of this one. Golding on cold tyres really struggled. So on the restart, Ryan Wood got through. Bang! There goes the pizza car. Macaulay Jones was on for a top 10 today. That took him out. The truck assist car goes off, and this was just before the safety car was called. Golding got back to the lead. Fitz Shivers couldn't believe his luck. And then the heartbreak for car 2 as Ryan Wood and Jaden Ojeda go out of contention with engine drummers, taking both of the Walkinshaw and Red United cars out of the show. This was the real tale at the end, just slipping and sliding numerous cars off into the fence. Richie Stanaway, one of the best in the wet. He was coming too through the field, but unfortunately out of this one late. Again, Golding goes wide. It opened up the door for Cooper Murray. And then this fight with Matt Payne. It went on for lap after lap, and it looked like it was going to come to a crescendo at this moment down Conrod. Payne had to sit, but then slipped up on the exit of the chase, couldn't quite get it stopped, went back to 3rd. Looked like he was done until Golding up the inside, turns the Chico car sideways. Great save, Murray, 5-second penalty at that moment, and Payne went through to the lead. It looked like surely Matt Payne had this one in the bag, but Golding out of nowhere fights back. With 2 laps to go, he gets to the lead of the race again with that penalty, which then somehow invited Reynolds into the fight on the last lap. He tried the impossible move around the outside of the cutting, couldn't pull it off. Golding first to the checkered flag, but takes the penalty. Payne gets the win on a dramatic day here at Mount Panorama. Payne and Tander, they're your champions for 2025.
Wow. Wow, oh wow indeed. Wow, that was a very interesting race. I think the Camaro actually won, Chevrolet Camaro. I just have to say, the whole race was fun. It was loads of action. Mount Panorama is one of the hardest circuits to drive in the world. It's lots of elevation changes around that circuit. You know, you kind of rise up after the first corner, kind of go uphill, almost down and up. Then you go up the mountain, then you come back down the mountain, a very long straightaway. Greets you then into a very heavy braking zone. Honestly, it's kind of got an F1 track a bit, really. I mean, Formula 1 really wouldn't be able to race there because it's just too narrow, particularly up the top of the circuit. With these newer modern F1 cars, even with the regulation change next year in 2026, we're going to be struggling to get F1 cars side by side. Hopefully, we will see an improvement. But yeah, it's an interesting dilemma for sure. But V8 Supercars certainly delivered again for us as well. Then we have the NASCAR Cup Series, which raced at Las Vegas the other week. And this was a big championship. Lots of action in that one. Let's start off with the news from that. It was Denny Hamlin who took the checkered flag at the South Point 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Ahead of Carl Larson, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe and the number 19 Toyota there. That number 11 Toyota finishing first again. Bowman was 7th, Carl Busch 8th, Ryan Preece 9th, Brad Keselowski was 10th. A massive incident in that race for William Byron, who was actually classified as a DNF after making contact with someone who he thought was coming into the... who he didn't expect was actually going to make a pit stop and hit the other driver. Not expecting what happened. I think it was Ty Dillon that actually had contact with William Byron. A very bizarre accident. And also as well, Shane Van Gisbergen sadly got turned around in a multi-car pile-up as well in that race. What does that mean for the playoffs now? Well, the playoffs table as it stands, we have now got the confirmation that we have one more race before the Championship 4 descend on Phoenix in a couple of weeks' time. Let's have a look at the Championship 4 so far. Denny Hamlin is definitely through to the Phoenix race, or he's obviously competing now for the championship. Carl Larson, Christopher Bell, and Chase Briscoe remain on points. However, though, if William Byron, Chase Elliott, Joe Logano, or Ryan Blaney win the next race at Martinsville, one of them will automatically qualify for the Championship 4. Obviously, if it's not one of them drivers win, it will be done on points. So at the moment, it looks like Larson, Bell, and Briscoe will be through on points as it stands. But remember, you get stage points in NASCAR, so stage points are crucial. You know, you've got 3 stages. Stage points are crucial. The win is crucial as well. You get the most points if you win. So you can get more points by not winning the race, by actually finishing in stages. But winning that race does mean that you do get the qualification automatically through. So, like I said, NASCAR system is very different. It's a playoff style format. I mean, you're looking at that Chase Elliott. If he wins in Martinsville, he'll go through. He's not won a championship for about, I think, 4 or 5 years. Has the Hendrick Motorsports driver, the number 9 Chevrolet Camaro. You've got William Byron as well. I think you've got Ryan Blaney. I think you've got one of the ex-champions in that as well. I think the champion from last year. So very interesting to see what happens. For sure, Logano's in there as well, a former champion. It's going to be spicy coming up to Martinsville. Obviously, Martinsville isn't the next race. The next race is the Yellowwood 500 at Talladega, which is the super speedway, the final meeting of Talladega of the year. Then we go to Martinsville in a couple of weeks after that for the Xfinity 500 and then the NASCAR Cup Series final race at Phoenix. November 2nd is the last round of the championship. So that's all I'm going to say on that as well. And finally, I'm going to do a quick recap of some action down at Donington Park. The other week, we had action in the British GT and GB3 championships as well. I don't usually cover feeder series to motorsport, but I will. Obviously, this was the finale of both sports. British GT, GB3, in general. From what I understand. In the news, meanwhile, we have confirmation that McLaren have won a successive British GT Drivers' Championship in that sport. Whilst we're here, we're just going to get confirmation of that now from McLaren. The Artura GT4, the hybrid-powered GT4 Artura from Optima Motorsport won second year. Jack Brown and Mark Warren claimed the title with victory in the season finale. Brown also become the first Brown becomes British GT's first ever double GT4 champion. Optima Motorsport also won in the Silver Cup as well, I believe. Or Silver Class title with Harry George and Luca Hopkinson. Artura GT4 won 14 British GT rounds since 2023, more than half 27 races as well. So that was in GT4. Well done to the McLaren team for winning that, by the way, in GT4. But in GT3, it was a win, and Charles Jewetson and Kern and Jewis have clinched the GT3 title in British GT after finishing 4th at Donington Park finale. A 2-hour British GT contest won by Barwell's Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell as well. The 2 Seas Mercedes pair simply needed 7th to deny the other 3 championship winners, Giancarlo Petrovelli, probably my pronunciation is wrong, Johnny Adam, Blackthorn's Aston Martin, Von Idge, Morgan Tilbrock, Marvin Kirkloff for McLaren, and Kevin Tessay and Maximum Goat, the 2 Seas Mercedes. But the changeable conditions highlight the contest as Rob Collard and Hugo Cook completed a Barwell Lamborghini 1-2-3, a 1-2 with Tessa Goetze in 3rd. So congratulations to Dawson and Jewis, Charles Dawson and Kieran Jewis in the 2 Seas Mercedes, the AMG GT3, for claiming British GT Championship honours this year. However, though, the GB3 Championship will be racing this weekend at Monza for its final round. We had action in a crazy weekend of racing at Donington Park, where Abby Pullin was involved in an accident. Sadly, obviously, you can go check her out on YouTube, by the way, Abby Pullin. I'm sure if you're watching this podcast tonight, I hope you're doing well. Obviously, she's also been announced, I believe, as in this. I think she's doing another test for Nissan, I believe, as well, in Formula E. So that's another interesting development there as well. Also, lots of other actually, I think DaCosta's joined Porsche or something. So there's a lot of news on that. Meanwhile, on GB3, well, lots of news on that one for sure. Plenty of racing as well. Maxim Ring was the one who claimed honours in I think it was GB4 as well. But meanwhile, though, newly crowned GB3 champion Alex Ninkford claimed his 3rd Omega Galato 1 to watch all of the year at Donington Park for another perfect score across the opening 2 race weekends. Donington was the 3rd time awarded to position. So, yes, there was lots of action at Donington for sure. Lots of races, plenty of surprises in that one. But there was also plenty of action as well, as I said in the race. Nikovic actually won race 2 despite the 10-second penalty for a jump start. As you can see there were the final results. Bianca Bustamante was down the bottom there as well in that one. But obviously, sadly, there was a collision in one of the races which took Abby Pullin out, sadly, as well. As you can see, she was involved in a collision with Finn Jacks, Ria Sungwanen. Rodin Motorsport was also involved. At XL Motorsports, Patrick Huizenroder was also involved as well. Not ideal for Abby, but she has had some impressive showings this year. A podium at Brands Hatch after a chaotic ending. But for that one, certainly delivered her some great results. We go to Monza this weekend for the final round of the GB3 Championship as well. GB4 also in action as well. So it's going to be a great championship. Great single-seaters on a great budget as well. We went to Brands Hatch earlier in the year. I think it was about less than 20 quid online to get into British GT round. So definitely consider that an option if you're attending motorsport events across the UK next year. That's all, folks, though, from the Motormania podcast this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm your presenter, Chai Thomas, and we'll see you again next time for another edition of the Motormania podcast. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.